Good morning, everybody. It's good to have you today to our TIBCO Spotfire in Manufacturing webinar. We'll give the other attendees 2 minutes of extra time to arrive, and then we're going to start with the webinar. Well, hello again and good morning, everybody. We're glad that you found the time for our webinar today about TIBCO Spotfire in manufacturing and a look on SPC compared to MSPC compared to machine learning. Today I'm joined by our special guest, Eszter Kovács, and my name is Nick Verstegen. I'm a data scientist here at Statsoft, and I'm going to guide you through this webinar today, and with the help of Eszter, showing you some examples of Spotfire, how it can be used, especially in manufacturing. Eszter, do you want to give a few words to the audience?
Yeah, sure. So welcome everyone also from me. My name is Eszter Kovács, and I am here to support this webinar from TIBCO side, here as a solution engineer and with TIBCO since 8 years now, and very happy to be able to present for you today.
Great, thank you very much. I will share my webcam as well. So hello everybody, but we're going to turn off the webcams soon so that you can concentrate on the slides and on what we are talking. And later in the webinar, when we're going back to your questions, we will activate the webcams again. By the way, the questions, please feel free to enter any questions you have during the webinar into the questions box in the webinar software. My dear colleague Sebastian will monitor those questions and raise them to us at the end. If we don't find the time for some of your questions, or maybe don't find the right answers, we will get back to you to your questions after the webinar, of course. So feel free to enter as many questions as you like, and you will get answers for all of your questions. By the way, you have all been muted for this webinar today, so just use the questions functionality. And this session is being recorded. So after the webinar, you will be receiving a link of the webinar recording, and then you can re-watch it as many times as you like. All right, so let's look at what we're going to talk about today. So that's our little agenda for today. So We're going to talk a little bit about TIBCO and Statsoft. And then Eszter will take over and give us an overview about Spotfire's capabilities. And afterwards, I will take over again the presentation and talk about data science in manufacturing. I will give a brief overview about statistical process control, SPC, compared to multivariate statistical process control, MSPC, and also compared to machine learning. We're going to see an MSPC application, so a specific use or implementation of Spotfire, where we use Spotfire to make available an MSPC process at a customer. And then I'm going to show you how to get started with a data science project, but also with data science projects in general. And afterwards we are going to tackle your questions. So yeah, that's what we're going to do today. Let's talk a little bit about Statsoft. Here you see some of our team members. Statsoft has been around for almost 30 years and always in the business of data science. We have offices in Hamburg, that's where I'm located. We have offices in Poland and in Switzerland as well, and affiliates in other countries. And we count ourselves kind of as above 50 brains in analytics and solutions. We would not be able to do this business without the help of our partners, and in this instance, first and foremost, TIBCO, which we are very glad to have on board here today, but also in general. And we will see what TIBCO is all about. So what is it specifically what we are doing as a company? It's a lot of text here, but in short, we are a solution provider company, especially in the field of data science and all the specific branches like machine learning, for example. We help our clients with the projects from beginning to end, from, let's say, identification of projects to the implementation and the maintenance, for example, of our solutions. Especially, we are focused on analytics in validated industries. I mean, that's one of our specialities, but we also do cover all other industries as well. But having experience in validated application gives us a lot of advantages, even in industries that don't require it. So what is it what we're doing mostly? We're doing consulting, of course, so helping you, explaining things to you, working for you. We do integration and customization of software products, so especially TIBCO's product suite. Let's take Spotfire, for example. We're going to integrate it into your IT environment. And we're going to adapt Spotfire if needed to your specific needs. We offer trainings in methodologies and also in using the software products. And of course, we help with the support of existing applications, with the maintenance and documentation as well. So that's all about Statsoft. Let's move over to TIBCO, and for that I will give the presentation to Eszter.
Thank you, Nick.
I'm going to make you presenter. And
good. So
you should be able to show your screen, and I can see it.
That's great. Oh, it just works out. So TIBCO, just some words about the company, who we are. So TIBCO software is about unlocking the potential of real-time data, all for making faster and smarter decisions. Now, the TIBCO Connected Intelligence platform is mainly about 3 different pillars. Firstly, about connecting systems, then unifying data, and predicting the future. Briefly, what is Connect is integration, API management. It's about events, messaging, processes, and automations. Then the unified pillar is more around the data access and data control. Data virtualization, master data management, and metadata management are the solutions we are providing there. But the third pillar is the one we are focusing on today. This is the so-called predict pillar. Topics such as visual analytics, data science, and streaming analytics, and its combinations are related to that one. So today, our main product, or what's in the middle, is TIBCO Spotfire. And this is actually also in the solution, what we are also going to see later on today from Nick in the use case side. So as I said, TIBCO Spotfire is an analytical solution. It's a visual analytical tool which brings not only visual analytics, but data science capabilities and also streaming real-time capabilities together in a seamless experience in an easy-to-use and tailored way. As with many of the BI and analytical capabilities, Spotfire addresses the need of self-service analytics to answer known questions. With its enterprise BI reporting capabilities, stakeholders can make collaborative decisions or also just build rich dashboards. However, where Spotfire really differentiates itself from the pack is through the ability to accelerate innovation, to solve complex use cases, what you are also going to see later on, where you have not only visual analytics, but further components, advanced analytic capabilities or data science capabilities, but also very strong capabilities around discovering the data, discovering questions you are not aware of. So we used to say discover the unknown unknowns. Just some examples of the value Spotfire has delivered to customers. I wanted to bring here Hemlock Semiconductor. They needed to accelerate process optimization and eliminate cost. They managed to unify data flows and optimize analytics for real-time 360-degree views of all the facilities and manufacturing operations. Now, Brembo is also a very interesting example. They are from the automotive industry. For them, Spotfire became the new standard for analytics across all the group. They are using a solution across the whole company for a wide number of use cases, including process optimization control, quality control, research and development. They introduced a united quality evaluation process used by different personas. They used to, use different technologies, and they onboarded all the different technologies, models they were using to a single platform to Spotfire. So now they have the same visibility on the results. At the end of the day, they managed to deliver their new products faster to the market. One last example, which is my personal favorite, is Mercedes Petronas. We are actually partners of them since 2017. Just some small examples from the use cases we solved together. They combine massive amounts of data to find out the optimal car configuration for each driver, for each race, and changing trackside conditions. You can imagine we are really talking about huge amount of data here with many different sensors of the cars. Another use case is the digital twin simulation, which is kind of a mimication of the real-time track experience. It's like a real-time use case. And with that, they can predict real-life racing outcomes and identify optimal strategies. Let's see how these use cases all look like. What is the loop of them? What is the story of them? That is what we call hyper-converged analytics experience. Everything starts with the data. So step one, you have to access the data, prepare the data wrangling, explore that. The data can be anywhere. It can be historical, real time. Once you have accessed that data and prepared that in a way that you can consume, you create your insights, you create your visualizations, your rules, your models, and your predictions. And now with that, the story doesn't end, because based on your data, you have your insights, but you want to make sure that once the same pattern, for example, happens in the data, you recognize that automatically. So you want to automatize all these actions to bring these predictions to the real-time data as well. That you get, for example, a notification. And last but not least, you have to make sure that the model is still delivering the best outcomes. So you have to continuously monitor those and learn from the results. So to be prepared for adjust your data access or your insights, your models, and make sure that you have the optimized outcomes all the time. Now, when you see all these components, they are like many pieces together, and it's not something one people can deliver. So this is really analytics is really a team sport where business analysts, data scientists, data engineers can work together. And this is what we mean with hyper-converged analytics experience, to bring all these components, visual analytics, data science, streaming capabilities together in a seamless experience, which you can also deliver in an easy way and in a tailored way. And I'm sure that in the use case later on, you will also recognize all these steps and how all these components can be integrated together in a real-time use case, real-life use case. So this is what TIBCO Predict is all about. The visual analytics part is powered by Spotfire. It's about looking at the data and exploring it in a highly immersive way. The second one is data science, because TIBCO also helps make data scientists become even more productive and helps organizations operationalize and scale their data science models. And the last one is streaming analytics. Our streaming analytics technology empowers business to bring continuous intelligence into the organization, to be able to combine historical data with real-time data and make actions on those data. So this is all TIBCO Predict. We solve actually use cases from easy ones to the more complex ones with our immersive, smart, and real-time analytical capabilities. So that is in a nutshell TIBCO's Predict portfolio. Just again to highlight that these are different use cases, different topics to discuss with human insights, with artificial AI, data science, and automations real-time. And as you are going to see, all these different capabilities can be brought together in one single platform in Spotfire. Now, again, this is something you have to do as a team sport. So what you also see in my references, for example, at Brembo, that all these different kind of users can now work together in one single platform to share the same knowledge, to work on the same insights. So data analysts and domain experts, data scientists or just citizen data scientists, data engineers and architects can now look at the same data and work on the same platform as a team together. So just a bit more about Spotfire, what it is. It's a powerful and easy to use enterprise-grade visual analytical platform. Some of the built-in market-leading capabilities are around data access and data preparation, the AI-powered insights, geoanalytical capabilities, or data science. But we're also very strong when it comes to application buildings and embedding your analytics applications into your own systems and our own applications. So the first part is what I wanted to highlight when it comes to the differentiation of Spotfire is the connectivity part, that you can use any kind of data. Actually, we support more than 300 different data sources, including applications, databases, big data files, streaming data sources, and so on. We even offer here a single orchestrated virtual data layer for all your distributed data and analytical projects. But it's not only about accessing the data, but the steps before are also very important. How you make sure that you can consume that data, or that these data are ready for your application. So Spotfire has a built-in AI-powered capability of transforming the data, of preparing the data, that actually we call data wrangling. So data engineers can easily combine different data tables with each other, transform the data, or just prepare it in a way that you can consume your tables. Second is around agility, how you can immerse your teams in insight explorations. First of all, Spotfire is really very interactive. It's an interactive visual analytical tool, so you can explore and understand your data through interactive connected visualizations. It is even powered by AI recommendations, so users can get recommended way of showing up your data based on some correlation found in the data sets. At the end of the day, what is very important that you have an application, what you really need. So we really believe in personalized applications, and we support that you can basically visualize anything you need. You can provide customized grab and go analytical applications. Furthermore, these applications are smart, so you include geoanalytical capabilities and data science capabilities in your applications with one click more or less. So you can add, for example, TIBCO data science or other statistical languages in a very user-friendly way into your analytical applications. The third area I wanted to highlight is the real-time component. You remember in the pillars, I mentioned real-time many times. So this is around getting insights from the real data time, from real type of data, and in real time. What you see in my screen is actually a very nice example how you combine historical data with streaming data, with sensor data within the same application. So you see, for example, this is a traffic monitoring application, and we have several KPIs around speed, for example, and when something happens, you might get an alert, maybe it's marked with red, maybe you get an email. So that is how you can create actions on your real-time data. In the background, you will add some data science models and some more complex rules. And at the end of the day, it's all about creating automated alerts based on some insights or some predictions you were creating before. Last but not least, become smart at scale. So scalability is really a key here. We are an enterprise solution. So we highly support all kinds of collaboration through a scalable, distributed, co-creative environment. So we have the ability to really share your findings within the platform, to use communication, to use our chatting capabilities, to work in a single web-based environment altogether. You can deploy literally anywhere. You can deploy on-premise, cloud, and in hybrid environments. So this is actually all the differentiators around Spotfire. And as I mentioned, we are having many customer stories, many use cases. Without going into details from my side, I wanted to just highlight that we have a very rich demo gallery from different use cases, different applications. Just quickly showing it to you. So this is actually our interactive demo gallery. Oops. Where you will see all the different files. I'm sorry, just needed to quickly adjust it. So you see here different demos from different verticals, such as, for example, process control monitoring examples, or one from the semiconductor industry. So if I just quickly showing it to you, you will find interactive solutions which you can try out how it looks like. You can interactively discover the functionalities and discover the use cases shown in the interactive demo gallery. We have here many. Actually, we are supporting many different verticals. So you see here, there are a lot of different use cases here. So please visit the demo gallery and make sure that you try out some or multiple use cases of our demo gallery page. And with that, I would like to give it back to Nick, because he is really going to show you live an example with Spotfire on the fly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eszter. So I'm going to take back the screen and I'm going to share it. So now my screen back on. Yes, thank you very much for the overview of Spotfire. Now I'm going to dive a little bit into data science in manufacturing, then show you an application built in Spotfire, so real life Spotfire. But you also saw from the demo gallery that Spotfire kind of is a chameleon in a sense, so it can be in many forms and colors and ways of exploring data. So it can really be suited to your needs. So let's look at data science manufacturing, and I'm going to give a brief overview about like the differences of SPC, Statistical Process Control, compared to MSPC, Multivariate Statistical Process Control, compared to machine learning. So it kind of, if you explain it like this, it kind of all starts with SPC, which is a monitoring method to monitor your data, your manufacturing data over time. And what you're doing is that you take, let's say, sensor readings or quality measurements, and you plot them over time. And when you collect enough data, you will find that this data adheres to a certain structure. And if some observations differ from this structure, you can raise a warning, or it gives you a sign of something is not right in your production process. And it's, as you are looking on all the sensors individually, or all the measurements individually, it's called univariate monitoring. So only one variable at a time. The nice thing about it is that it's really easy to set up and easy to understand. It's based on statistics, and it has a theoretical foundation that can be used to just make it easier to kind of set up. And this method is roughly 100 years old, so it should be implemented anywhere where it is applicable. If we take MSPC, this is kind of a step above SPC in a sense that it now tries to monitor multivariately. So if some readings or some measurements are connected to one another or related to one another, then MSPC can identify this structure and look at like if the relationship changes. And that has multiple advantages. So first of all, you can look at these relationships, which gives you maybe a deeper insight into what is going on. And the other is that you can be able to kind of compress your measurements down to only few measurements that you really need to observe. Because if you take SPC as a strategy and you have hundreds of measurements, you need to look at, theoretically at least, hundreds of charts to see what's going on, whereas MSPC can compress this down to only just a few charts, albeit in a compressed sense. So you don't see every detail anymore. We will see in the example how that turns out. MSPC gives us more diagnostic capabilities, especially to diagnose like these multivariate structures. And it requires a little more computational power. Well, it's not 100 years old, but many decades old, so it's enough computational power is available nowadays. If we take machine learning, we now can do multivariate and even more monitoring, and especially we could take a look at nonlinear relationships. SPC and MSPC are more bound by some requirements regarding these relationships or regarding the data, whereas machine learning is more flexible in that sense. Machine learning can also be used in a predictive fashion. So you could predict what is going to happen, let's say, after some measurements have been read, what could the next measurement be, or what could maybe the final outcome of your production process be. With machine learning, you could predict something like this. Well, that comes as a price, of course, with a price, of course. So especially if you're going to more complex machine learning models, the diagnostic features get weaker and weaker. And that's due to the nature of these models, because increased complexity leads to increased capability in modeling complex relationships, but increased complexity also leads to weaker ability for us to understand what is going on. And that's why I'm not presenting this here as one is better than the other. Every single one of these methods is excellent if you have the right scenario. So there is no best method here. It depends on the requirements, on your requirements, and it depends on the available data. Your requirements can be different things. So it could be that you have a very straightforward process, so maybe SPC is good enough. It could be that you don't have enough knowledge to know what's going on, so maybe not take a more complex method. It might be that you want to take a little bit of a glimpse into the future, I mean, with a little bit of error margin, of course. And that's your requirement. So tools that you're using should support all of these methods to make you able to select the best one for your process. And maybe not select exclusively, but combine all of these or use all of these all of these together. And then it should also be workable in a sense that it should be working analytically in your analytical process, but also online or live or on streaming data, so that during your manufacturing process itself, you are getting informed of the results. Let's take a look how an MSPC example in Spotfire could look like. So let's go to Spotfire here, and you see this is TIBCO Spotfire. It's an application that we built together with a customer, and it's specifically an MSPC application. There are some more abbreviations attached to it, which I'm probably not going to dive into today, but we could have a whole lecture about this. But let me just briefly go over it, what we're seeing here. So this is Spotfire, and this is sometimes what we call a dashboard here. I refer mostly to it as an application. So we use Spotfire to build applications specified by the customer and their needs. And in this application here, we are solving an MSPC problem. So let's maybe look at this here first. So this is obviously example data. In our original manufacturing process, we have 10 variables, 10 measurements that we observe. And the model that has been applied here has reduced these 10 measurements down to 5 components. It's kind of the MSPC process. It's reducing the measurements down to components, and these components kind of bind similar measurements together. You could think of temperatures, for example. If you have a manufacturing process and you measure temperatures, like let's say close to one another, most of these temperatures will be roughly the same. And then a component could be kind of a summary of all these temperatures, still representing what's going on temperature-wise in your process, but only being one component. So just a little summary here. Let's take a look at this chart, for example. And the nice thing about Spotfire is this is all interactive here. So we can, for example, highlight something. We see that these are 2 batches, B37, B39. And as soon as I highlight them, they are going to be highlighted in the other charts. But let's focus on this chart here. We see this is all our batches in the process. And this chart kind of boils down all my 10 variables into one visualization where it shows me that these 2 batches are not like the other batches. They are beyond a certain threshold. And basically, kind of that's it, first of all. If I use MSPC, and I can just magnify this, if I use MSPC to monitor my process, I see everything is going fine here. And I just have to look at one diagram to understand what's going on. And now I see there are 2 batches not like the others. And kind of this is the monitoring part, and now kind of the diagnostic part comes in. Why are these not the others? And that's kind of the challenge here. We have to now try to understand what is going on. Why are these different? So compressed view, and now we drill into it with diagnostic capabilities. We see the same hoteling T-square control chart here. And those 2 batches, they are the same ones, just highlighted. We see that they are far beyond the threshold. But this chart here only shows us the hoteling T-square value for component 2 and 3. And now I can drill into this. So I can, for example, change these components. And now these diagrams are getting redrawn with updated information. And I see when I switch from 2 and 3 to 2 and 4, we see batch 37 becomes an outlier now. We see also in this component versus component plot, a scatter plot here, B37 seems to be an outlier. I can maybe change this one around here as well. And I'm seeing now a little bit more clearly why these lay out. So they seem to be outliers regarding component 3 and 4. So what are these components? Let's move on to the next page here. So this is a plot. It's a plot really for the production specialist, not so much for us. But it shows kind of how in the component 3 and 4, those different original measurements, how they are loaded, we call it. So we see, for example, component 4 here. We have a high positive loading for the temperature 1 of the heat cooling medium. We have a high positive loading of pressure 2 and negative loading of the flow rate number 2 and so on. If we were production experts for this type of production, we would be able to understand how kind of certain measurements are related to one another. We can look at the trajectory plots here. And this is the process we are looking at. This batch production process is a process where we have a production over time. So every batch is kind of cooked for 100 time steps. And now we can take a look at these individual batches again. So this is a plot from the first page, but we can try to compare these batches, let's say batch 39 to maybe one batch in the middle, kind of a very normal batch. And I can just highlight the two. I can take a look at the trajectory. This is the trajectory for pressure 3. I can narrow this down. And I see that the differences seem to happen in the beginning of the batch process. And I now could take a look at some areas here and take a look at the score contribution, like why are these different, or what original variables are influencing those components. And I can continue this analytical process. So I can then compare two groups, for example, and try to understand groups of batches, how they differ, and so on and so on. So kind of that's it for this Spotfire demo application. So this has been built together with the customer. It's analytical capabilities in the background, so MSPC modeling, but displayed in a fashion so that the experts at the customer side can interact with the results of this statistical modeling and understand and kind of feed this understanding back into the production process. Here. Let me just move back to PowerPoint. So we saw this analytical application built in Spotfire. It was, I mean, to the experts at the customer side, it's an intuitive application because it is designed based on customer requirements. It can be improved by the customer, and that's very nice. So Spotfire, and you saw some of the capabilities, but you could easily just add an additional chart, for example, or change chart types around if needed, and the customer can do it. So he's free to do all of this. He's not relying on us for the future to change this. And what Spotfire also brings to the table is that this application is easily distributable. So we saw it running here on my PC, but you can run it on a server. You can distribute it to different user groups, maybe with different capabilities. You can run it from the web, and so on and so on, all through the capabilities of Spotfire's powerful platform. And this dashboard especially encapsulates a lot of data science methods. So there's data preparation in there. There are some models being executed in there. And it can be from simple visualization to very complex machine learning models all in one tool. Spotfire can use analytical backends, and in this example, we were using Statistica, also a product from TIBCO's portfolio, Statistica as an analytical backend. And those backends also make it easy to update this application. So for example, to update the models when new data arrives and so on. How would you get started with a project like this, a data science project or multiple data science projects? So there are many ways of showing this in PowerPoint, but what we always try to do is, first of all, to go to some kind of preparatory phases. So ideation phase, where we kind of try to find ideas, basically, what could be helpful to you. Maybe you have some problems identified already, and then we can make a list of these and qualify each of them and kind of find out what is the most advantageous project to tackle first. It could be due to different factors. So for example, I would, for example, recommend to focus on the low-hanging fruits first. Maybe the simpler analytical projects first. and then improve upon them in later iterations or projects. So that would be during qualification. Then you need to do some preparation, of course. You need to have maybe the right expertise or the right partner. I mean, hint, hint, we are available for that, of course. You also need maybe the right toolkit to work on your data or to build your analytical applications. And another hint, that's where maybe TIBCO comes into play. So that's some kind of foundational work you would want to do. And then you go to data science projects, or one data science project followed by the next data science project. And most of these projects, they start with data collection, so that all the data sources are available and kind of connected to one another, that you can access the data when needed. Data collection in the first project oftentimes is a lot of work, but in subsequent projects it gets easier and easier because the data collection projects can be kind of reused and then improved upon. Then you get into a data preparation phase where you kind of build the data set in a way that it fits your modeling that you want to do later. And most of the time you have to do this it's kind of two things you need to do. First of all, you need kind of a one-time data preparation, so for the modeling itself, but then also you have to think about making it repeatable. So if this is a model in a live scenario, this data preparation has to be applied in a live scenario as well. Then you do some modeling that could be fitting an MSPC model to your data. It could be a machine learning model, maybe a decision tree or a neural network, something from the artificial intelligence domain, based on the prepared data, of course. Then you wrap this model up so that it can be used in an application or in the field. And this can also mean that you can run it on some server, for example, continuously. And that's kind of what we demonstrated, you can do some front-end design and build an application around it so that users can interact with your data science results. That's how to get started. And obviously we are available to get in touch to talk about things like this. So that's it for my part of the presentation. Are there any questions?
Yes, there are. Thanks a lot so far, Eszter and Nick. I picked a few questions, two for you, Nick, and two for you, Eszter. Let's start off with Nick. First one would be, if it's possible to apply this use case to real-time data. Could you expand on that a bit?
Yes, sure. I mean, this is the example I demonstrated was in fact on static data, and that was one of the, let's say, requirements, or not a specific requirement, but the scenario we had at the customer. So they wanted to analyze static data after the fact. But this can easily be expanded to be working in real-time data. Spotfire has the capability to access streaming data sources, for example, and we can apply these models on live data as well, and then monitor the manufacturing process on the fly.
Okay, great. Second one, what advantages machine learning really adds to this? Could you elaborate on that?
Well, machine learning adds the capability to really model complex relationships. And when you look at it from an SPC, MSPC side, it kind of seems like, yeah, what would a complex relationship be. It could be something like a non-linear relationship, but it could be much more complex. So for example, take image data, image recognition data. We saw one of Eszter's examples where there was a traffic monitoring going on and vehicles being identified. And this is a task that can only be accomplished by machine learning models, models from the artificial intelligence domain. And these image recognition problems can be, first of all, can be solved, and they can also be in your manufacturing process, and maybe you have not yet recognized it. So because the traditional technologies were fine till now, but machine learning could, for example, add some detection capabilities in the image recognition space, and then mix this into your traditional monitoring.
Okay, great. Thanks, Nick. 2 questions for you, Eszter. How and if Spotfire could be or can be embedded into other platforms?
Yes, it can. Actually, it was even mentioned while I was discussing the differentiators. So TIBCO Spotfire really can be embedded in any kind of web pages or applications. We support different so-called co-branding features for that. So you can customize the whole user interface completely, even like, the login page, the whole menu area. You just put your logo on that and don't see the TIBCO logos at all. And as you were saying in the brief overview around the interactive demo gallery, you were seeing the different shapes and colors and designs. So the complete user interface, including visualizations, including background colors, font types, and everything can be customized in a very detailed level. So you can make sure that it really fits into your company standards as an embedded application.
Okay, and speaking of customization, how can this be provided to different user groups with, for example, different knowledge or background within companies?
Yeah, so the one example you were seeing from Nick was actually created, for example, by a power user, someone like Nick, a data scientist. So we needed a data scientist to create those models in the background in any kind of application, maybe in a TIBCO data science solution in the background. And then he or someone else, like a data engineer, had to make sure that you get the right data accessed and prepared as well. So they were also participating in that exercise, in that creation of the use case. And then there were some people, maybe they are only the experts who want to visualize that data. You remember a chart where it was really specifically created for an engineer. So maybe it's again some example where another user group came into the picture. And the example you were saying was in the analyst client. But as Nick mentioned, the advantage of that use case was the distributed part. So you can distribute it across your company, across different teams, share it via the library, put it in a website, and then everyone can access and consume the dashboard without giving them the rights to be able to manipulate that in any ways. Maybe they can just consume the application using, some pre-configured filters or enabled filters, some interactions between the visualizations. So they just really consume and read the application as an end users. So that really makes it a team sport. So as you were saying, a distributed application used by high-level consumer users, but also more experts who are working on the creation of the use case and on the preparation part as well. Maybe Nick, anything to add? Anything from your side as you were creating the application?
Well, I think it's really magnificent, the capabilities of Spotfire in that regard, that you can really build custom applications and build them to really tailored to the audiences you want to address. And for me, just came into mind like the COVID-19 dashboards that we saw, that were some were implemented in Spotfire as well and kind of being released to the general public. So not inside of companies, networks, but to anybody. And that shows how capable this platform is to build really a specifically tailored application. Any additional questions?
No, that's it for the moment. Thanks a lot.
All right. Then again, everybody, thank you very much. I will move over to the last slide. Thank you very much for attending today. Thank you very much, Eszter, for your presentation today. To everybody, if you need additional information from us, don't hesitate to get in touch. We will be glad to be hearing from you. See you in the next webinar.
Thank you and have a nice week.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.